here, but hell yeah.
Every single day. What happened to all that talk about Luigi Mangione? It was something
Has anybody else noticed that in this recent speech, like...
No one is talking about this, but there was an explosion at the LA convention.
For an hour, 2 hours, whatever. What's that? I'll show you tape. Show me.
A manhunt is underway for the killer of a 43-year-old city executive found...
Did you know that King James wrote a book on demonology and witchcraft?
And so should the Indians stand up today and say deport all white folks back to Europe?
Well,
Donald Trump released the records of MLK's assassination. That's
I just could not live inside them. I don't feel that they should be oppressed. But I moved here. One of the main reasons was because...
The whole history of America is the history of rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. It starts in the colonies.
Welcome back to the chaos. I have some theories for you to chew on.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2025, where a carton of eggs costs $12. You want the 18 pack, $15. If you want a little small medium pack, $10. Fam, these shits used to be 3 for $5. Please send help.
every single day. What happened to all that talk about Luigi Mangione? It was something everyone was talking about. I would see photos of this man in jail every single day. It was on my feed. Somehow there's already a documentary on him on Hulu. Now it's all Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Did we just forget about Luigi?
Yo, has anybody else noticed that in this recent speech, like the coat of arms behind Trump, where usually like the head of the eagle is facing towards the olive branch, whilst having these arrows, which means that it's capable of peace and war, but it's going to look more towards peace. The eagle in this coat of arms is looking towards the arrows, towards war. And it's like, damn, that's kind of settling.
No one is talking about this, but there was an explosion at the LA Convention Center about an hour and a half ago. It was a bomb.
The guys at the apartment said there was a loud bomb that they heard earlier.
Like the whole thing is completely fucking blocked off. And no one has given us any information at all. An explosion. No one has any information on what happened.
Yo, this thing's getting nuts with ice, isn't it? But in a good way or bad way.
They want to immediately halted the hiring of any new IRS agent. They hired or tried to hire 88,000 new workers to go after you, and we're in the process of developing a plan to either terminate all of them or maybe we'll move them to the border. I think we're going to move them to the border.
I hate paying taxes and to the IRS. If they do away with the IRS, we get a full check. But what are the consequences?
So you can do it for an hour, 2 hours, whatever. What's that? I'll show you tape. Film it.
Oh, is that the secret room?
Oh, yeah, turn it off.
I do?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 hours, whatever.
Oh, is that secret?
I'll show you
Yeah.
tape.
Wow. Oh, okay.
Oh, God, I see why.
Hold on.
So, all right.
No,
I guess.
leave it behind.
Well, he can share this spot, right?
Yeah, but that's it.
That's it.
Okay. All right.
No.
We'll be back.
No. You can't see this spot.
No. Come in.
Oh, my God, it's mental.
Come in.
All right.
We all know the red rooms and what the super rich like to do in those red rooms. The dark web. Let's keep going.
It all makes sense now. This is why you're not getting any Luigi content on your For You page. But wait, it's more. There's $63 billion market money that the United Healthcare has lost because of Luigi. But before I explain that article about everybody wants a piece of Luigi, and that'll explain what they are scared of and why they are hiding this content. And I don't like it. But we have brought back Luigi TikTok to the TikTok through this page. So continue, y'all doing a good job to share. Before I get into it, comment, like, watch it to the end, share it with 15 people. So just like this commenter said, yeah, we know it's about the healthcare, and they don't want us to know that they done lost 63 billion. So things is changing. But if you saw my other Luigi post, you will know that they are scared of jury nullification, which is a juror acquitting Luigi because they don't like the way he was done, even if they think he might be quote unquote guilty. Well, now that they're scared that all the public is behind them, this shows that they are really scared because even all the prisoners are behind them. Now that was a scene when News Nation pulled up and was talking about Luigi when he was in Pennsylvania in prison, jail, and the prison guards were watching it. They were blinking their lights and just yelling in support of him. Y'all, long story short, they are panicking because they saying if the prison guards are supporting them, the prisoners are supporting them, and the public, where are we going to get a jury from? So keep sharing or doing whatever y'all been doing with all these buttons because it's working. Let me know if this on your FYP, because I like it. I'm out.
Yo, so what are your thoughts on Luigi? I haven't been seeing much coverage. I had to do a little dive into it. But what are your thoughts here?
A manhunt is underway for the killer of a 43-year-old city executive found beaten to death.
So,
Marianne
suspect.
Kilonzi, a senior official at
Pay
City,
attention.
was found dead at her home at Royal Arsenal Riverside Development on Friday evening. Detectives said they were hunting a suspect known to Miss Kilonzi over her death, with one line of inquiry probing whether the person has fled the country. Officers said that Miss Kilonzi was thought to have died as a result of blunt force trauma and head injury. Detective Chief Inspector Susan Soaring said it's believed the suspect was known to Marianne and that there is no wider risk to the public. The police are asking anyone with any information to come forward.
That's why we ain't been seeing Luigi on our FYP. They worried about Luigi being set free, and I'm gonna get into that, but check this out. I would have never got this information if it wasn't for this follower right here and us sharing this Luigi stuff, because y'all know they suppressing it. So I figured out what we gotta do is when you run across Luigi or whatever stuff we really need seen, you gotta watch it, you gotta share it, you gotta like it. We gotta do everything you can do. We gotta work harder. But look, this just hit yesterday. I didn't hear nobody talk about it. I ain't seen nothing on my FYP. How jury nullification could set Luigi free. And I like. So when you read this article, you read between the lines, they say that Luigi basically experienced a swell of popularity and support on social media amid growing criticism concerning the tactics employed by insurance companies to deny care. But that ain't the craziest part. What they trying to do is get you to forget about him so he's not so popular, so they can get the jury that they want. Because if they don't, they fear the jury nullification, which happens when they believe a defendant committed a crime, but they vote to acquit anyway. Blow this up, share it, like it, whatever, share it to 100 people. Let's bring Luigi talk back. I'm out.
Did you know that King James wrote a book on demonology and witchcraft? That's right. The guy who is involved who basically commissions a new version of the Bible. This is 1611. That is the first edition of what would be called the King James Bible, 1611. Before this, 14 years before this, he publishes a book on demonology and witchcraft. Why? He didn't like witches. Why? He thought they were trying to kill him. In fact, if we go to the preface of his book on demonology and witchcraft, this is what he has to say. This is how he is justifying the need to print this book. He says, "The fearful abounding at this time in this country of these detestable slaves of the devil, the witches or enchanters, hath moved me, beloved reader, to dispatch in post this following treatise of mine." And then he goes, "Such assaults of Satan are most certainly practiced, and we need to put an end to it." So about 2,500, mostly women, were put to death that were accused of witchcraft during the reign of King James I. The guy who's involved with the Bible, does a book on demonology and witchcraft. Tell me what you think in the comments.
Unsee, we will finally evict all of these illegal aliens that are coming here and stealing jobs from Americans. If you break into my house, should I just accept you because you washed my dishes and made my beds? I say no. I say you need to go back and come back in the right way.
So is that what the Indians should have told white Americans?
Absolutely. Ask Cochise if border control is important.
Because the original illegal alien are European white folk in America.
Agreed.
And so should the Indians stand up today and say deport all white folks back to Europe?
Well, should we learn something from their mistake? Because we are here now.
Or should you learn something from their compassion to give other people an opportunity like was given to you and your ancestors? Learn from their compassion. That's what you should learn from.
I say learn from their mistakes. Ask Geronimo if taking care of your borders is important. We need to do that now.
And I agree with Cochise, Geronimo, and Sitting Bull. Letting in the white man was the worst mistake that the Indians ever could have made. I agree with you. That was one of the greatest mistakes. Even right there in South Africa, they got a similar problem.
Yo, that man broke it down in a nice, calm, and respectable way. Again, for the families who came here for asylum, escaping war crimes, absolutely, yes. We should help them. But for those who come to do evil, for those who come to destroy from within, again, those are the ones that I believe should be sent back. Let me know your thoughts.
Yo, black people, come on in here. So Donald Trump released the records of MLK's assassination. But I just really want to let y'all know, it's about to be some shit. It's about to be some shit with MLK. We're going to talk what they taught us about MLK. Honestly, it's probably going to change a lot of people's minds, but don't get mad. They're going to try to deny you. They're going to try to say this ain't happened. But I'm not saying that we're supposed to believe it, but I'm also wanting to just guard your feelings because some shit's about to go down. Hey, y'all asked for it. Y'all asked for everything to be released. Y'all asked for transparency, and Trump gave it to you. So, as a history teacher, as a person who knows history, a lot of shit we were taught, it's about to be a rude awakening, especially for people in my community. So get ready.
Yo, so what are y'all thoughts on the MLK and JFK files dropping? It's going to get even more crazier.
Watch this. This man just got into office 1 day ago and is already going after one of the most predatory industries in the world. Watch this.
We have a public health system that does not deliver in times of disaster, yet more money is spent on it than any country anywhere in the world. All of this will change starting today.
But you know what's crazy? His buddy Donna White was coming after the same industry a couple of months ago. Just listen to this.
I will never go to a doctor ever again about my general health. They have no clue what they're talking about, and all they want to do is put you on pills. What's going to end up happening is the medicines are just going to start to stack up. And before you know it, you're going to be on 14 pills with 10 different side effects from each one of them. Instead of taking pills and medicine, you put the raw materials back in that your body needs, which are supplements and things that you're deficient on, and the body does the work.
Now, this is where it all gets interesting, because around the same time, they were trying to silence this doctor for giving us a natural way to deal with that random cold that we all seem to get at the same time. Just listen to this.
Chronic sinus problems year-round is a mold fungus problem that lives up and through here. And oil of oregano is the absolute best remedy for that. It's antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal, anti-candida, antiviral, anti-parasites, and anti-mold.
Now, I did some research, and not only is oil of oregano basically anti-everything, but if you look in old remedy books, our ancestors have been using this stuff for centuries, and they refer to it as a heal-all herb. Could that be why all of mainstream media called Terrence Howard a lunatic for basically giving us this information?
Oil of oregano, like using oil of oregano instead of using antibiotics.
And have you felt an effect?
Yes. It removes the parasites from your system. I used to have really thick, dark circles under my eyes. That's gone away. In the last 6 months, I've been using that.
Now, before you go looking for any random oil of oregano, please make sure that it has high carvacrol. This is the one active ingredient that makes this stuff super potent, and most brands don't have it.
All right, so what are your thoughts here? I haven't heard about the oil of oregano, but I want to try that. Have any of you tried that? And if you have, let me know.
I just could not live beside them. I don't feel that they should be oppressed. But I moved here. One of the main reasons was because it was a white community. And that's the only place I intend to live. If I have to leave Levittown, I will do so.
Personally, my home life, that has an effect nothing whatsoever. But on the neighbors, they have a right. Because the average white person living in Levittown has 4 and 5 children. Now, let's put it this way. If the Levittown is migrated in hordes of Negroes, which they have a right to come here, but if something that happens that way, pretty soon my neighbor will be having a Negro son-in-law or a daughter-in-law.
Now, that was the 1950s, Levittown, Pennsylvania. This country will have us believe that that was so far in the past that those people just disappeared. Now, a lot of folks say it's more about class and less about race, but we see in that example right there that in 1957, even if you had enough class status to be able to live in a neighborhood with those folks in Levittown, they didn't believe you was worthy enough regardless of your job. I just could not live by them. I don't think they should be oppressed, but I can't live by them. That sounds like a lot of good liberals and conservatives of today's time. The same speaking points. Think about it though. The suburbs of today was created back then in the 1950s, 1960s. There is a distribution of wealth and knowledge that's been passed from generation to generation to generation that still impacts how we live today. And to be clear, it wasn't that many generations ago. My grandmother was born in the 1950s. And her mother, the person that birthed her, was born in the 1930s. Not that far ago. A lot of folks that run the system right now was raised in times and by people like her right there. In conclusion, when we talk about white flight or gentrification or redlining, it's important to acknowledge that it's not just by policy, but also ideology. You see what I'm saying? Education is elevation. Constantly educated shirts available on the website.
Yo, my man dropped a lot of gems there. All right. You know, about to go into a special month, Black History Month, when we remember our ancestors. And this may be a trigger warning on these next 2 clips. Be advised. The fact that we are in 2025 and we still have people who share foolish ideologies when it comes to the human race. Yes, we're all different pigments, we're all different ethnicities, we all bleed red, but we're one human race. These ideologies were from the powers that be to divide us, to separate us, so that we will stay as sheeple. We are not sheeple people. We are not sheeple people. All right, let's go.
The whole history of America is the history of rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. It starts in the colonies of what would become the United States. Let's remember, during the colonial period, mid-1600s, there was no such thing as white people. I know some people who are now called white find that shocking, right? Because they think whiteness is real, right? But whiteness was created. Europeans didn't call themselves white. We didn't call ourselves white. We weren't all members of one big happy family. Are you kidding? Have you studied the history of Europe? The history of Europe was about killing each other. That's what we did in Europe. We just killed each other before we figured out there were other people to kill. We just killed each other, right? I mean, that was the history of Europe. The English hated the Irish, right? Northern Italians didn't even think that Southern Italians were Italians. The Germans hated everybody, and everybody hated their ass right back, right? There was no team called white, no race called white, but all of a sudden, in the middle of the 1600s, there was. Why? Why was it suddenly necessary to create this thing called the white race? Well, because rich people can count, that's why. And so rich folks looked around, the ones that owned all the land, you know, in the colonies, the colonial elite looked around and they realized something, that they were heavily outnumbered by African enslaved folks, by European indentured servants who were just one level above a slave, or other Europeans who weren't technically indentured servants, but they were still peasants, didn't have any money, didn't have any land, and they could do the math. They added it up and they were like, damn, we got to figure out a way to split these folks apart from one another or they're going to rise up and take our stuff, right? Because after a while, these black folks who were enslaved Africans and these quote unquote white folks who were poor Europeans are going to figure out they're all getting played by these rich people, right? So ultimately the rich figure out they got to come up with some way to get somebody in that group on their team. The easiest thing is to get the poor Europeans, right? Because at least they look like you. They sort of share some of the customs and the culture. So they all of a sudden create this thing called whiteness and they say, now you're part of the club. Now we're going to let you testify in court, enter into contracts, vote, at least if you're a man, own a little bit of land, at least if you're a man, right? And we're going to get rid of indentured servitude. No more of that because you're too good for that. And we're going to take the white men, now called white men, and put them on the slave patrol to keep black people in line. Give them a horse and a gun and a badge and make them feel big and powerful, right? They're still poor. They still don't have anything. They didn't pay the slave patrol well, right? Just exploited them, used them as a buffer between the elite and the other poor folks, particularly poor folks of color. And pretty soon the rebellions that occasionally happened where black and white got together to overthrow the elite, those stopped because the divide and conquer had begun to work, right? You could turn people against each other by telling those poor white folks, they got to keep these black people in line. And so that divide and conquer gets initiated in the colonies. Rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. Fast forward to the Civil War era. And you have, I'm from the South, right? My people, the elite in my part of the country, right, actually announced that the reason they wanted to break away from the Union and possibly go to war with their brothers and sisters to the North was in order to maintain slavery and white supremacy. They said that at the time. We lie about it now. And we say it had nothing to do with that. But of course, at the time, they didn't have any shame about it, so they just said it openly. Right? The vice president of the Confederacy, Alexander Stephens, said that the cornerstone of the new government was the great truth that the Negro was not the equal of the white man. So that's the reason the Confederacy was formed and existed. But here's the trick. If I'm rich and I want to go to war to protect my ownership in other human beings, my property, but you're poor and you don't own any enslaved people, why the hell would you go fight to protect my stuff? Because I'm a rich person. I'm not going to fight. Rich people don't go to war. Right? Rich people get poor people to go to war for them, whether it's in 1860 or whether it's during the 1960s or whether it's today, right? Rich folks get doctors to write notes for them that say that they have heel spurs and that's why they can't go to Vietnam. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, you can Google that shit because he's sitting in the White House right now, right? Oh, I can't go fight. I have heel spurs. Send some poor kids to do that for me, please, right? So that's been a long-standing tradition. So the rich have to figure out a way to convince the poor to go fight for them. But that's a hard thing. That's like a hard sell, right? Like how the hell, why would you do that? Why would you go fight to protect my property rights when you don't own anything? The only way you would do it is if that rich person comes to you and says, hey, listen, you gotta go fight because we gotta maintain our way of life because if these people get free, they're gonna take your jobs. No, fool, they already got your job. That's how it works, right? Because if I'm white and I got to charge you $1 a day to work on the farm, but you can get a black person to do it for nothing because you own them, guess who got the job? Free got the job, right? So in a sense, poor white folks would have been better off joining with black folks to overthrow the slave system. That would have raised the wage floor of all working people. But they got tricked by rich white men telling them that their enemies were black and brown. Fast forward to the 1930s. And you have white labor leaders. They're not even the elite, right? The labor leaders are not the elite, but they're the elite within the labor movement. And even they had fallen for it at this point. So they didn't want to integrate their unions. And they would say things like, well, we can't have black people and Mexicans and Chinese folks in our unions because if we do that, it's going to reduce the professionalism of our craft. We have to maintain the integrity of our profession. No, fool, you need more people in the damn union is what you need. And if you don't let those folks in, guess what happens when you go out on strike? Who is the boss going to use to replace you? They're going to replace you with the very same black and brown folks that you didn't want to work next to, right? And so at the end of and then you're going to blame them for taking your job rather than the white rich dude for giving it to them, right? Divide and conquer, telling not rich white folks that their enemies are black and brown. And now we fast forward to the president. We got the president of the United States becoming president on the basis of that same rhetoric, telling not rich white folks that the reason they don't have a job is because Mexicans took them.
All right, so that was a lot said by that man there, Tim Wise, I believe, but he dropped a lot of gems. I'm not speaking against any political affiliations there. I wanted to bring this to your attention because I found it to be very interesting how the powers that be, all they want to do is divide and conquer us. Divide and conquer. Doesn't matter the color of your skin. All right, so we went through some, theories to chew on there. All right, that wraps up another one for the HFC podcast. Thank you for being here with me as we do this dive.